All right, and we're back. So I consulted with Louie last night, or not last night, night before, and he basically showed me that there was a clip down here to tie these under. Of course, that's not there on a mini-tubbed rig. So this is the approximate spot where it's supposed to come up through. I have left it kind of a little loose in there for now because I'm not sure how that's going to go with the narrowed seats for the mini-tubs. So I may have to flip it up here, up down there, but I got options. And then here I broke out the fuel sensor and the fuel pump, as well as the pump for the convertible top. So that's all connected. One thing I did do, and I put a note on the wire actually underneath, but I brought the grounds up for both the fuel pump and the fuel sending unit, and brought them up and grounded them to the chassis behind this seat. The seat's easy to get out. It's a good place for them. It's dry. It's not going to be a problem. If something underneath could get corroded, and next thing you know, your fuel pump's malfunctioning. So then this cable runs back here. I also had a couple of extra courtesy lights. I don't know if you can see it, but I had bought a set of these because I didn't realize they came with the painless kit. So I threw those here in the trunk. They're on the dome light circuit. So anytime a door is open or you turn it on the headlight switch, you'll have a light in the trunk. So yeah, it is what it is. And then I brought the cable down through here, sleeved it, wrapped it in pigtailed everywhere where I've got to hook up lights. I still haven't hooked up the chassis ground to this rear harness yet, but I'll do that at some point. So, excuse me. This is, I think that's pretty much it back here. So this is the whole rear tail section wired up. I did go down through I put a grommet in the bottom of I don't know if you can see it, it's behind that pump. But I put a grommet down through, sealed that up real nice where it goes down through for the fuel pump and the fuel level sending unit. I got to look at my list, but I think that's pretty much it for wiring right now, except for the clutch disconnect for the cruise control. But I got to go through that one more time. I'm waiting. I got a resistor coming for that, and I'll kind of take you through how I do that once I get it. But the object of the game here is to just kind of get this stuff all squared away and rolling. Now I think what I'm going to do next, I'm probably going to disconnect the ECU because, I'm chicken. And I will power up the circuits and make sure that I have switched 12 volts everywhere where I need it, blah, blah, blah. Make sure I got power on the fuse box properly. All of that. So it's just a good practice to go through and now, power everything up, switch stuff on, just kind of give everything a once over and make sure it's where it's supposed to be. Obviously, I can't test lights or anything yet, but I got to kind of take it on faith those are going to work because, well, I wasn't involved in those other than pulling wire. So that all goes through the regular fuse box, through the painless fuse box. So I still have to hook up the radio. Obviously, I'm not going to do that until after it's running. And the AC control box needs to go in, again, not till after it's running. And I just want to keep that area open so I can correct any issues or deal with any problems I find. But, yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up the wiring. And I got a hell of a mess to clean up. But I will get there. And yeah, the only wires I see hanging out are the radio wires and the two that are under there for the clutch switch. I'm only using one of those. So I might be able to do some pre-wiring for that clutch switch now and then get it ready so that when I get the resistor, I can just put that in. But yeah, that's what I've got left. And I'm happy to be done with this part, or at least done as far as I know. I use these magnet holders here in a lot of places. You'll see them. They're kind of rare earth magnets, and on a nice surface like that, they're really on there. So it just keeps your wires from moving around a lot. But yeah, that's about it. Not really anything, any big mystery here. Fuel tank's hooked up. I've got some hoses I need to pressure test before I got to pressure test the fuel line, fix my power steering line before I put pressure on the fuel line or anything. So before I start it, that stuff's got to get done. So I'll probably hit that next. Well, after I go through the test sequence, but I feel like I'm pretty close. All right, time to test the wiring. Okay, so I got my handy disconnect switch here, which has been in the off position while I've wired the whole thing. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn the disconnect on. I happen to have an amp meter here, just because I'm afraid. Let's see, zero that out. So if, when I'm going to turn this on, if I see a huge spike in current, I'm going to turn it right off, because there really shouldn't be anything drawing too much current at this point. So I don't think should be much of a draw, especially with the switch off. Let me just verify that that's the case. The ignition switch. I believe I left it in the off position, but a lot of things happen between now and then. Okay, that's accessory, that's off. Okay, so let's just turn it on and see what happens. Hopefully we don't let the smoke out of this thing. All right, here goes nothing. An 1.5 amps. Is that 1.5 amps or milliamps? Amp. 1.5 amps going somewhere right now. Where would that be? I don't smell anything. Well, what would be drawing an 1.5 amps just sitting here idle? I am not sure. I did unplug the ECM, so that has nothing happening. And of course, I have not put the gauges on yet, because, why risk that? Let's see. Let's make a couple measurements here first. I'm just going to probe around and make sure I understand everything that's going on. First things first, let's just find a good ground. Well, there's no better ground than right back on the battery, I guess. Wow. I think it's kind of a pain. Okay, there we go. Nice. Okay. All right, so the main power feed should have power. This one should not. This one should not. Everything on the block should. The alternator should. Let's see. Just make sure everything's getting through these big fuse blocks here. Power. Power. On the two big witness fuses there, MIDI fuses. Okay, so that looks good. This should not have power yet. I don't know, maybe. I can't remember. Oh yeah, it does. So the fuse box has power. That's all right, didn't want you connected there anyway. Okay, let's look inside the car. Well, that explains where my 1 amp's coming from. My courtesy lights are courtesying. Let's see if, ooh. That's not good. That means that one's open over there too, probably. Let me test that first, I guess. Okay, so the courtesy lights are working. Just hit my switch and they go right out. That's good. Let me test my glove box light over here real quick. That's a little wonky. These things were never great anyway. All right. Yeah, I may be getting a different one of these. This kind of sucks. Okay. Next step, I want to see if what happens when I turn on this switch. Oh, okay. The HDX box is booting. It's got lights and flashy things. So I've got accessory power now. Let's test a couple of connections. Not sure how much you're going to be able to see from there, but all right, let's check I think the switched power definitely has power, so that's kind of a given. Let's see what we got here. All right. Yep, that light comes on. All right. Of course, this works. So that means the relay, the MSD relay out front on the firewall is working, which is all a positive step. I'm going to try that wiper motor. Turn this off for a second. All right, so I'd take a second and slap the knob on that thing. Nothing should happen right now. The switch is still off. Turn it on. Ooh, it works. So I just hit the washer button and it gave me a few cycles like it's supposed to. Okay, let's see what happens here. Oh yeah, sweet. Looks pretty nice. That's the delay setting. A little bit more. A little quicker. All right, and that's low speed wipers. It's very nice. I'll tell you what, that sounds like a very sound, tough little motor in there. Let's turn it on to high. Oh, she's cranking now. It's really storming. All right, that's good. Okay, now the only thing I didn't hear was if the pressure of the washer pump ran. Might need some help to do that because I got to get my hand down in there on it. But okay. Oh, apparently I forgot to shut that all the way off. Yep, one more click. Okay, and then it does like 3 revolutions if you hit the washer button. So that looks good. Everything's tested out okay. I'm pretty comfortable with what I'm hearing so far. Of course, I don't have the ECU plugged in, so it's not going to fire the fuel pump yet, which I don't want to do anyway. I've got to change a fitting on that and then pressure test that line. So I probably might do that next, actually. So we're getting there, step, but we'll be almost ready to fire this thing shortly. Next day or two, should be ready to light this thing up for the first time. That'll be exciting. I do have to run out and get some fuel, 91 octane or better. And yeah, I think we're making ground here. That actually, I'm kind of like PTSD right now. That was a lot of wiring, a lot. So anyway, yeah, let me try some more things and I'll bring you back. Okay, so I rigged up this little setup here with just an AN6 1/8 inch and then a Schrader valve, and I've plugged the other end just to do a leak down test on my fuel line, and it's dropping. So I charged that to 60 psi, and you can see now it's down a couple pounds. So first things first, I got to make sure it's not my setup, right? Make sure it's not any of these pieces. I'll dunk this in some water and see if I got any bubbles. And if not, I'll go look at the other end. Okay, so this is holding pretty good. I got it right about 50 psi. That one's okay. I've had to pull off this lower power steering hose again, and yet sure enough, there was a little tiny bit folded under. But this is holding fine now too. I keep knocking the thing around, but it's about 50. But anyway, I also put it underwater and everything else just to see if I can see any bubbles. But I'll come back and have a look at it tomorrow. I'm going to wrap it up for tonight. And I think tomorrow, I tested my electrical system so far. I'll get the ECM hooked back up. And then hook the fuel line all back up. I think it's time to get some water in it. See how many leaks I have there. I've just been getting a little discouraged in the number of leaks that I'm coming up with. But anyway, dealing with them one at a time, being very studious to make sure I get them all. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to wrap that up for tonight. I'll be back out here in the morning and we'll see what we get. Okay, so I've taken a few minutes. I've thrown the dash in kind of temporarily. And I am at a point now where I am going to prime the oil pump. So what you do for this is there's a plug. You can see it right down in there on the side of the block that I pulled out. It looks like this. Okay. And I'm going to put this adapter in its place and show you what I'm going to do with this once I get it in there. Okay, so this is kind of a pressure pot setup here. You can use this to dispense or evacuate. I've got it set up to dispense right now, and I am going to force oil from this pot through the oil pump. And you just put this little quick connect on that adapter that I just spun in there. Hopefully it doesn't leak, make a big mess. Keep an eye on it. And what you do, you apply pressure to the pot. It's got a little pressure relief valve, so if it gets too much, it stops. Then you turn on this valve and hope it doesn't leak. Here we go. Now this is the Blueprint Engine's break-in oil. First 500 miles. Playing this by the book. If they say do not use a synthetic oil. But what we're doing right now is we're forcing oil directly into the oil pump and up through the galleries. So now, in an ideal world, you'd set this up so you could bump this over a few times and get it to rotate the cam and all that.
but I don't really want to bump it over because I'm afraid it's going to take off if I do that. But okay, I don't have any leaks. So now you can push this whole 5 quarts through there, or you can push just as much as you think you need. I'm kind of inclined to just let it go, see what happens. Can't hurt anything. This motor's been sitting for over a year, so the only time it's ever been run was the dyno test that Blueprint did to it. It came out at 544 horse. So pretty respectable. These LS3s are pretty amazing, and it weighs 500 pounds. So not many rigs you can get that will do that, pound for pound of horsepower to weight. Anyway, yeah, just pushing this along. It's down to here now. Just let it go. I've also got a note on the dipstick to make sure that I check it once it's absolutely full. And I didn't pre-fill the oil filter as well. But I want to check this when it's absolutely full and make sure I understand where it is on that dipstick, because I wasn't 100% sure I have the right tube and stick combination for this oil pan. So anyway, we'll let this go for a bit. And yeah, I guess the other thing I could do is disable the ignition and bump it just to get it to move a little bit. But I'm not too concerned about it. It has been run before. It hasn't been sitting for, this isn't a dry start. It was run one time before. So I'm going to go through this procedure. This will get all the oil up on the cam bearings, the lifters, the rods, the crank. Should get most of the lifters anyway. All right, I'll bring you back when this is done.
Okay, said to myself, really should look on the floor while you're pumping this in. I got a little leak here somewhere. I got to figure out where it's coming from. Not that. I don't see it. Where is it dripping? Oh, okay, it's coming here. The hell is that coming from? Okay, looks like it's running down off the back of that. Oh. It's leaking out of my fittings. Awesome. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Hang on one sec. Okay. I fixed that, put the rest of the oil in it. It's interesting. I've got probably a quarter of a quart on the floor, but with this stick and tube, which came with the motor, I'm right at the bottom of the quart low mark. So this is a different pan, but that stick relates to the crank height. So I'm kind of torn. Do I put another quart in? Because the oil pan capacity is obviously different. This motor came with the what they call the muscle car pan for Chevelles and things like that. The F bodies need the Holley 302-3, I think, or 302-2. Can't remember which one, but it's the one for the F bodies. I'll look it up. You should see it on the screen here. So when I had it up in the air, looking at the cleaning up the oil mess, I noticed I had a gas leak in the back. So right on the filter, one of the AN fittings on the filter was leaking. So I'm going to bring it back up, check it again. Okay, floor looks dry. It was leaking right on the bottom fitting on that fuel filter right there. Of course, I've got it strategically located right above the muffler. So you want to make sure that's not leaking. Looks okay now. I did charge the system. I'm going to wipe it off one more time, just to be sure. But the system is still sitting at like 50 psi right now. So if it's going to drip, it should still be dripping. Let's see here. Yeah. And of course, these filters are stupid. They've got AN fittings built onto them, but the damn filter itself doesn't have a wrench hex or anything. So you got to hold it with vice grips or something. It's the only way to really do it. The other side looks fine. There's no leaks there. So I think I'm okay. I am going to build a little shield there, though, in case that ever does start to leak. Make sure it's draining off to the side. I'll get to it. Put it on the list. Put it on the list. I think I've got about 1/4 of a quart on the floor of oil up there, so that's not good. But at the end of the day, I think I'm okay now. So let's see what happens. Okay, so one last thing I'm going to do before I try to start it is I made this, I'm going to jumper out the clutch safety switch so I don't have to be in the car to start it. I verified that I am in neutral. I have checked everything else. So I'm going to throw this jumper on and then check my list one more time and see what happens. Okay, this is it. We're going to try to light this thing. I'd be very interested in your comments on that oil thing. I think I should add another quart because, like I said, the stick and tube relative to the crank is the same. That did not change. The only thing that changed is the capacity of the oil pan. So yeah, I think that means I've got to go with a 7-quart system instead of 6. But anyway, is what it is. If you guys got any comments, let me know. Well, this is it. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. I believe my fuel leaks are plugged up. My water is up above the toes here, so I'm going to leave it like that for right now. I'm going to put the cap back on it, however, as it just starts to spew everywhere. It's kind of the way the day's been going. Okay. Can't think of anything else. Batteries on. Contact. Oh boy. This is I'm nervous. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, batteries on. Courtesy lights are courtesying. Glove box light is on. See what the dash does. Okay, fuel pump kicked in. Please calibrate your speed. Well, we're not quite ready for that yet, are we? Well, let's see what happens. Please, let it go well. Yes! Nice! All right, let's see if we got throttle. Drive-by-wire is working. Sweet! All right, oil pressure, we're sitting at about 60 psi. No temp in it yet, obviously. Yes! Oh, we're getting a little smoke up there. I'm sure that's just burning off from the headers. But let's have a look. Just make sure we're not dumping oil. Yeah, it just looks like a little bit of header action. Okay, I'm gonna let this warm up for a second. And then I'm just gonna do a real quick check. Take each header. 325, 375, 365, 330. Yeah, Cam's got a little gallop to it. 380. 399. So yeah, all coming up to temperature. I'm hitting on all 8. That's a good thing. What's the fuel pressure running at? Fuel pressure's dancing right around 58, where it's supposed to be. So that's pretty ideal. Oh, now I need a seat and a steering wheel. I can take this thing out. I think I got a high oil pressure alarm there. Oh, my tap's not working. All right, guess I gotta figure that out. Interesting. Temperature's coming up a little bit. Oil pressure's running beautiful. Battery's sitting at about 14. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, first step, get the garage door open. It's getting foggy in here. Want to make sure oil pressure, water, volt. Okay, gonna open up the garage doors now. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff burning off right now, but we'll give that a few minutes. Both fans just kicked in, so that's good. Didn't see any problem with that. Radiator's still ice cold. I'm gonna add a little bit. Yeah, Cam's a little rowdy. That thing sounds good. And it's not super loud. I like it. All right. Well, I got one heat cycle in it. And topped off the water. So I got a little tiny water leak up here in one of my fittings, of course. Right here, that little black union is dripping just a bit. So water temperature shot up to like 240 before I shut it off. I'm gonna keep an eye on that, obviously. But it's running, which is fantastic. I have not put any additive into the water yet, like water wetter or anything like that, which I do intend to do. But we got to fix that leak first. Also going to lift it back up and see if I got any new leaks, just to be thorough. And then I've got to address the tack. So let's get it back up in the air and see what we got. So it would appear that I did not fix my fuel leak yet.
Great. Let's figure out where it's coming from now. Same place, I think. Okay. Don't see anything on this side, which is good. The side's dry. Okay. That side, not so much. Sure I don't have anything coming down off the top of the tank, because that would really suck. No, that's dry. So it is completely right there. All right, I got to get up in there with some serious tools and try to tighten that right up. See if I can't figure out why that's still dripping. Might be the top one dripping out of the bottom one. It's just got me faked out. So I'm going to try to clean that up first before I do anything else.
Okay, so get everything back together. This fitting just turned out to be loose. I don't know why, but it was loose. The leak in the back, once I was able to isolate that, it did appear to be the filter, the fitting on the filter on the top was a little bit, it just needed to be snugged up a little bit more by the looks of it. So I'm going to run it again in a bit just to double check that, but I've run it up to pressure a few times and hasn't leaked yet. So I'll keep an eye on that. Power steering hose seems good. Don't see any more leaks around that. I got a piece of paper towel in there just to see if I get any drips off that next time I heat cycle it. But I think I'm in pretty good shape right now. So I'm going to wrap this video up here. And yeah, I'm pretty stoked. Finally got it running. So now I'm going to move on to continuing, probably work on the under the dash, clean the wiring up, and get to the vintage air setup next. Finish doing the ducts and the controls and everything that needs to finish that up.